I review a lot of cold steel products on my channel. In this video, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to take a look at 4 budget combat knives from Cold Steel and talk about which one we would choose if we had to go with just one. Stay tuned. Cold Steel makes all kinds of different blades. They've been around a very long time. I know some of you have a ton of Cold Steel blades, but I think we can all agree on one thing, and that is Cold Steel likes to focus a lot in the area of self-defense. And if you're familiar with Cold Steel, you're very much aware that they have a handful of really nice combat knives for under 50 bucks. And in this video, we're going to be looking at 4 of them. First on the list is the Recon Tanto. This is the SK5 version. I have beat it to death. Second on the list is the super slick Kobun Tanto, which I love to carry. Third on the list, and one of the newest to my collection, is the SK5 SRK Survival and Rescue knife, which is probably the best all-purpose knife out there for the money. Last and definitely not least is the terrifying GI Tanto, simplistic and strong. So let's talk about the applicable uses of a combat knife. Well, you know, I think about our law enforcement and our military out on the front lines fighting to defend our freedom. They most definitely need a good combat knife and are probably the most likely to get into a situation where a combat knife is needed. The next situation would be self-defense, whether you're out on the street or in your home, you know, defending against an attacker. A good combat knife is also very applicable in an animal attack. There's been plenty of situations where a good, sturdy knife helped individuals escape a deadly attack. But if you ask my honest opinion, I can take any knife and turn it into a combat knife. If I didn't have any knife at all, and all I had was a steak knife, that steak knife would be very helpful. I want to let you know early on in this video, I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments about which one you think would be the most effective. So let's look at some categories and let's break this down in a fair way. So the longest blade, the longest slicing edge goes to the Recon Tanto. This is a piercing machine. Like I said, I have beat this one up really bad. The longest edge goes to the Recon Tanto. But does that make it the most effective combat knife? Let's continue our study. Your Kobun Tanto is the lightest of all of these knives. I think a very good combat knife, especially for everyday carry, because I believe this knife is the easiest to carry out of all of the blades that we're looking at today. It's the easiest to conceal, it's the easiest to carry more discreetly, and it does have a nice slicing edge. That is about a 5.7 inch blade there. Nice grip on this knife, very light. You can be very quick with it. But will it have the same power and effectiveness as the others? Let's continue. When you look at the SRK, this is the kind of knife that you envision when you think about combat knives being used by military and tactical personnel. And it's very much a slicing and piercing machine. The GI Tanto is the one that I believe is the most intimidating. This knife just spells combat knife. The way it's designed, there's not going to be any slip. And when you turn this thing upside down, it's already got the angled place for your thumb. Whenever you hold the knife this way, you should also, you know, provide that brace for your thumb. This knife is also set apart from the others in the fact that it has a, you know, polypropylene handle. Now, this is not as much of an anti-slip grip handle as the others are. The others are very grippy. They've got the, you know, the X-Cray handle. But this handle right here is very smooth. Now, with combat blades, they stand to be used one of 2 ways, in hand and in throwing. Out of all of these knives, the GI Tanto is best set up for throwing. And I'm gonna tell you one of the reasons why that is. A lot of times when I'm throwing cold steel blades, such as the Recon Tanto, the Kobun Tanto, and even the SRK, the X-Cray anti-slip grip does kind of mess with my release just a little bit. I'm more prone to hold on to that handle. This polypropylene handle here on the GI Tanto just slides out of my hand like butter. So this is most definitely your best throwing knife. This knife is also 4 millimeters thick as opposed to 5 millimeters thick. You know, this is SK5, the Recon's SK5, the SRK is SK5, and your Kobun is an Aus 8 steel. But I think all in all, this is the most effective blade, I think, for piercing and for slicing. So which one would I choose for all-out combat? I think I'm going to choose two. I'm going to choose one for the city and one for the field, the battlefield, the apocalyptic battle, or the home invasion. For the city, I'm going to choose the blade that is light, fast, easier to conceal, yet has an awesome slicing ability, and that is the Kobun Tanto. If I'm in the city, I don't want as much weight on me, and I feel like the Kobun gives me the ability to have a lot of knife without the extra weight. But in all other places, I'm choosing the GI Tanto. The GI Tanto to me is the scariest of all of these combat blades. It has a very large slicing edge, a very menacing piercing edge. I like the polypropylene scales if I do, in some rare occasion, decide to throw this. On top of it all, the GI Tanto is more full-tanged than any of these blades. You know, your SRK and your Recon Tanto both stand to get loose around the handle. I know this because my handle around my Recon Tanto is loose from throwing and using. You're not gonna have that problem with the GI Tanto. The tang on this blade runs all the way through, and it's as thick as the handle. You're just not gonna have handle issues with this knife. So that brings me to the end of this discussion. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. I believe my Kobun is the best choice for the city, and I believe the GI Tanto is the best choice everywhere else. And you know, this one right here is the most cost effective out of all of these blades. Get you 3 or 4 of them. It's well worth the money spent. This knife can do everything. This video was all about combat. It wasn't about bushcrafting. It wasn't about utility use or anything like that. It's all about combat. Hope you enjoyed this discussion, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Take care.